Friends, just now, the shooting of Aaron Danielson in Portland, Oregon, the riots in Seattle, Chicago, the crime outbreak in Minneapolis and in New York City, all of these things are President Trump's fault. At least that's what the Democrats would have us believe. You know what, ma'am? You shouldn't have been wearing that. That's why you got raped. I'm Randall Terry. This is Voice of Resistance.
Those who forsake the law praise the wicked. Those who uphold the law resist them. Welcome to the Voice of Resistance.
Welcome to the program, friend. This is a show of heavy tidings, and there is a time for anger, and this is one of them, at least for yours truly, and I hope for you. The DNC, like clockwork, sends out talking points. We've seen it for years. Suddenly, everyone is talking about Stormy Daniels. Then everyone is talking about the post office. And then everyone is talking about COVID. And then everyone is talking about fill in the blank, the lack of ventilators, whatever it is. And then suddenly it just disappears magically. It's no longer a news item. President Trump pushes a few buttons and gets 100,000 ventilators built. Bang. Not a word of credit, nothing. We just go from Ukraine to Russia to one absurd thing after another. And the Democrats sing like a choir and they march like lockstep, goose-stepping monsters. So now it's President Trump's fault that all these riots are going on. Never mind that Obama is from Chicago. Never mind that all of these cities are run by Democrats and they've had decades at the helm of these cities where the highest crime rates are in the whole nation. Never mind that, it's President Trump's fault. It is like telling the woman or the child who has been molested, it's your fault. The perpetrators are Black Lives Matter, Antifa, random looters, murderers, violent, godless evildoers. But it's President Trump's fault that all this is going on. President Trump's fault that it just so happens to be in Democrat cities. And when the president points that out, that's even more divisive. That's even more hateful. That puts him even more to blame. How dare he say that the Democrat-run city of Chicago or the Democrat-run city of New York, go down the list of the most violent, dangerous cities in America. How dare the president say that there's any connection whatsoever between the leadership of those cities, the fact that many of those cities are calling for or in the midst of defunding the police. How dare the president say those things? He's to blame for the violence. He's to blame for the division. He's to blame for the discord. It's disgusting. These are evildoers, friends. These are evildoers. And I'm not talking about the people who are doing the looting and the rioting and the killing. Obviously, they're evildoers. I'm talking about the godless enemies of righteousness and justice and freedom that are fomenting this narrative. I say fomenting because the narrative itself perpetuates the violence. Now, we're going to play some clips for you today that are very disturbing. But what disgusts me is that the mega media, ABC, CBS, NBC, MSNBC, CNN, they're barely even discussing this. Barely. And then when President Trump had one of his supporters, a prayer man, a part of Prayer Patriots, Aaron Danielson, just shot in cold blood in the street while there are police all over the place, it's President Trump's fault. This is disgusting. It is demonic. And strike that. If you vote for the Biden-Harris ticket, or if you don't vote, or if you don't support President Trump in these swing states, then you will be partly to blame. You will be partly to blame for what happens in this country, because this is the pre-game show, friends. This is where we're headed as a country. If the Biden-Harris ticket gets in, they can't even bring themselves to condemn this stuff. Now think about it. When Floyd George is killed, and now it's come out that he was, while the police were there, one of the cops caught on their body cam that he was shoving illegal drugs into his mouth so that he wouldn't get caught with them. That's part of what he died from. He was overdosing. So they'll play this narrative of Floyd George, and the cops should have helped him sooner. There's no doubt in my mind. The sight of that knee on the back of his neck for me was despicable, hateful, evil. But where's the outrage for poor Aaron Danielson? He wasn't even doing anything wrong. He wasn't in the middle of being arrested. He was simply exercising his First Amendment rights, his First Amendment freedoms. And he's shot in cold blood. Where is the outrage? I read the stories. The stories began, supporter of President Trump from far-right group shot by a protester. Now think about that headline. Think about that opening sentence. They could have said, a Trump supporter practicing his First Amendment rights gunned down by a Black Lives Matter murderer. That would be way more accurate than what they said. This is the kind of evil that we're dealing with in the narrative. That's why I say they are evildoers, godless enemies of freedom. Look at the headlines, if you can even find them. I'm going to take a break. When we come back, we've got some video. We're going to show what happened to Rand Paul. We're going to hear a clip from Rand Paul's wife. We're going to hear from a Black Lives Matter leader in Chicago who says that it's fine that they're looting. We're going to see some video, friends, and I hope that you'll watch it. This is not the time for us to bury our heads in the sand. If we lose the country, we have ourselves to blame. The Christian community, we have ourselves to blame. I'll be right back. Don't go away. Listen to me. Listen to me. I have more experience in protests than most people in America alive. Okay? I have been in close contact with presidential candidates, vice presidential candidates, bullhorn, chanting. Never did we try and press in on them and create injury. Never did we threaten them. Ever. We used our First Amendment rights to herald our message and to reach them with the truth, hopefully in such a way that jarred their soul, hopefully in such a way that the TV cameras or the newspaper reporters or the radio reporters caught it on camera or with their eyes to do a story. It's been our modus operandi for decades. And I know what I'm doing. I know how this works. What you're about to see, the Christian right, for the 99.9999999% is never going to do. You're never going to find footage of a group of 40 or 50 or 100 Christian activists surrounding a candidate and threatening to rape them, to beat them, to F them up, pushing police. You're not going to find it. And here's the reason. Because we fear God. We might be full of anger. I'm full of anger right now. We might be full of anger, but we don't say, oh, therefore I can go and burn down a building, steal stuff, shoot innocent people, go up to a politician and threaten them with their lives, threaten to rape their wife. We don't do that because we fear God. These people you're about to see surrounding Rand Paul, that's not who they are. These are evil people. These are what the Bible calls evildoers. Okay? And they have malice and hatred in their heart. And they don't fear God. They don't honor the laws of God. So for them, anything goes. Watch this clip, what happened to them.
Say her name. Say her name. Say her name. Say her name. Say her Move back. Can you see it?
Now, that clip is late in the game. Earlier, there was only 2 police with them, and they were afraid for their lives. Listen to this from Mrs. Paul.
It was absolutely terrifying. I have never experienced anything like that in my life. I hope no one else ever has to. We felt completely powerless. Before some of the video that I think you have shown where the police with the bikes were kind of creating a moving barricade for us, in the minutes before the police with the bikes showed up, we were completely encircled and surrounded, pressed up against 2 cops who we were surrounded by people who were screaming in our faces, yelling that they were going to F us up, screaming, say her name. And at one point, you know, at first I was trying to look in their eyes and trying to have any kind of reason or to see someone as a human being. And I realized they did not see us as human beings. We were Trump supporters, so they absolutely despised us. Even though if we were ever in a situation and maybe could have talked to some of those folks and they knew about Rand's background in criminal justice reform and the things that I've spoken out on, we could have had agreement. But in that moment, it was just like this bloodthirsty mob, and all I could think of was the man who was kicked in the head in Portland, you know, a week ago, or the man whose jaw was broken, or 8-year-old Sequoia Turner. I really felt that we were going to lose our lives. I thought someone was going to throw a brick. I mean, it was the most terrifying moment of my entire life.
So given that, let me just ask quickly to you a follow-up, Mrs. Paul. Given that, the experience that you had, you just described it so vividly, what do you make of the news coverage of it? I've seen a couple of different accounts today that suggest it was not a big deal at all, that you're complaining for political reasons. NPR tonight described it as a peaceful protest. What do you make of that?
I'm furious. I am furious. I'm furious that Biden and Kamala Harris are not denouncing this. You tell me, if you are surrounded by a mob that will not let you move, that is screaming in your face, that is holding you completely hostage, and you cannot walk to your hotel and you are on a dark street, you tell me that's not violence. You tell me that is not an attack.
Now, I heard Rand Paul talking on another Sean Hannity's radio show, and he said, look, we were afraid that we were going to get pushed to the ground when there was just 2 cops. There's no footage of that. He said, and if one of us got pushed to the ground and the first person kicked us, then we all know what happens. We've seen the videos. They all rush in and start kicking. He said, and what we were afraid of is that we would be kicked within an inch of our life, beaten unconscious, or killed. Now, he went on to say, and this is really important, it'll be interesting to see what the Justice Department does. He said, look, these people are staying at the Willard. This is a 5-star hotel that's $500-600 a night. These are people that are being flown in and put up in fancy hotels and paid to do what they're doing. So it involves crossing interstate lines to commit a crime. Where is the investigation? Now, we've got a Black Lives protester in the last 24 hours that said, all of you BLM people, Black Lives Matter people, stop posting the videos. Stop showing what we're doing because the police are using the videos to identify our rank and file and to arrest them. So they want it both ways. I know what it's like to want press. I want my message out. They want their message of fomentation and violence and hatred and getting in the face. They want that message out. But they also know that the way they're behaving is a criminal act. It is what happened to the Pauls was a criminal act because you can't get in someone's face and threaten to rape them or kill them or beat them. You can't, that's against the law. So depending on what jurisdiction you're in would determine whether or not it was a misdemeanor. I don't know if it would rise to the level of a felony. You saw that cop get pushed. This is what we're facing, people. And Biden and Kamala can't bring themselves to condemn this. And then you got Don Lemon. Well, maybe we'll talk about that on another show. Don Lemon saying on the air, I wish Biden would address these riots because now it's showing up in the polls. So the very fact that Lemon went out on a limb, not because it's wrong. He didn't say condemn it because it's wrong. He said condemn it because it's affecting Biden in the polls. If it wasn't affecting Biden badly in the polls, don't talk about it. But since the word's gotten out. Somehow it's leaked out through Rush Limbaugh and conservative talk radio and Fox News and different online websites for news. The word is leaking out that these people aren't protesters. These people are anarchists. They are looters. They are robbers. They are murderers. And yes, there are a lot of peaceful people that are in the crowds, but they've been hijacked, people. They've been hijacked. Or else the leaders who are bent on violence, hell-bent on violence, they have seduced their followers, their idiot followers, to say, oh, this is just an odd thing, it's a mostly peaceful protest. They could have said that about the night that Aaron Danielson was shot in cold blood. When we come back, we're going to show that horrific scene. Please don't go away. Back, friend. This is a scene that is very blurry and it's from a distance, but it shows what happened to Aaron Danielson when he was shot.
Mace in my eyes. Ow.
Aaron J. Danielson was not a radical, he was not a racist, and he was not a fascist. He was not an inciter or an instigator. He was a freedom-loving American who died expressing his beliefs, a right which is guaranteed to all of us through the Constitution. He was a great man, and he did not deserve the end he met. We ask now that Portland, Oregon, and the entire country stand together and renounce any further acts of violence. No family or friends should ever have to deal with this type of loss. Who
are you? I got mace in my eyes.
You're attacking Democratic mayors and the very institutions of democracy that have served this nation well since its founding. Do you seriously wonder, Mr. President, why this is the first time in decades that America has seen this level of violence? It's you who have created the hate and the division. The tweets that he has been putting out in the last 48 hours attacking Democratic mayors, attacking those who are trying to bring resolution to the violence in their local communities. He has an opportunity to uplift us and bring us together and help us move through this difficult situation in our nation's history, and instead, he chooses to play petty politics and divide us. That's my reaction. So I'm going to do the work that I need to do here in my local community with my local officials to take accountability for what's happening on our streets. And I'd appreciate that either the president support us or he stay the hell out of the way.
And there's the response of the mayor. You piece of vile dead wood. This is what we're dealing with. They can't admit that their city is out of control. I've got to take a break. Please don't go away. Friend, I'm almost out of time. I ask you for your prayers. We'll be in studio with you on the next program, but then we leave for Florida. 8 days, over a dozen cities, where we are going to go in the Stop Biden Express. That's what we're calling it, the Stop Biden Express. I ask you for your prayers, but I'm asking you, if you believe in what we're doing. Look, these trips aren't easy. They're not fun. There's a lot of miles. There's a lot of stress. There is a lot of details that we constantly have to deal with. There are a lot of risks. We've had Black Lives Matter protesters at our events 2 occasions. Once, a dozen cops had to come out. So I understand what's going on. If you believe in what we're doing, please put your money where our mouth is. We'll be a voice for the babies. We'll be a voice for justice, for freedom, for the Constitution. But we need help. We just need help. Go to the website you see on the screen and make a contribution. $10, $50, $100, $500. Please help us so that we can be on the road. We'll be on the front lines, but we need a supply line. Please help us. Would you be the supply line?